vinyl community, how are you all doing? Dark Dove back with you again. As I'm shooting this, it is Thursday the 10th of September, but by the time you see this it'll be a good bit later than that, because I'm going to leave this a while before I throw it up, as I currently have a video up at the moment, which I put up not too long ago, maybe a week ago, or less than a week ago. But anyway, enough of that, let's get straight into things. This is a pickup I made a week ago. This is a group called Bang Bang Machine. They were a British group active in the early 90s. I suppose you'd call them shoegaze, kind of part of that early 90s shoegaze, kind of elements of grunge as well, kind of indie rock. This is called Eternal Happiness. I picked this up for a fiver, for €5, which is pretty good, because generally it goes for around 15 to 20 euros. They had their best known single, they're probably best known for a single called Geek Love, which was one of John Peel's singles of the year in maybe 1992 or thereabouts. This is from 1994, this album. It's called Eternal Happiness, and this is a special limited edition which comes with a bonus EP. Is it a live EP? No, it's not live, is it? No, it's not live. Maybe it is. Yeah, this is the bonus LP anyway, but yeah, this is pretty good. I wasn't familiar with this group at all beforehand, but the place where I went into, the guy there said, he showed it to me, he said you might be interested in this. It was only a fiver. Yeah, so very interesting artwork as well. But Bang Bang Machine, yeah, so I think they split up in 96 or thereabouts. Okay, now a band who I do not tend to show quite a lot, in fact I don't know, I'm not sure if I even have shown anything by them, but okay, that doesn't need an introduction really. You all know that album cover. Led Zeppelin 4 symbols to be precise. I picked this up in the Mother Jones flea market, a place where I've picked up loads of vinyl in the past. I got this pretty cheap. The reason I got it cheap will become evident to you all. Hang on. Yeah, so I don't really need to say anything too much on the state of the sleeve, so it's pretty poor condition. That's all split. The spine is very, very poor. It has the inner bag, but the inner bag as well is pretty tatty, and it's all split as well. Now, okay, so this came out in '71. It's not a first press, but it is from the year of release. It's on it is a purple Plum Atlantic. According to Discogs, this is variation number 6. Apparently there are 7 variations from the same year of release on the Plum label. The disc isn't too bad. The disc has been played It has been evidently been played quite a lot, but it's, I often find this with these late 60s, early 70s pressings. They play a lot better than they look quite a lot of the time. So even during the quiet parts of Stairway to Heaven, there isn't too much surface noise. It's certainly it's certainly an acceptable copy. It plays without any problems. There are quite a few surface marks, but none of them are kind of deep scratches or anything like that. So I got it cheap, more or less because of the sleeve. I don't know if there's anything much you could do with it really. I mean, sellotaping it isn't really an option because sellotape will just kind of discolor it over time. So any suggestions? I don't know. Maybe I might try and hunt down a replacement sleeve. But anyway, moving on to something slightly different. This is something I picked up in a kind of a brick and brack shop, I suppose you could call it, or kind of a junk shop. This is a compilation album featuring movie themes by Ennio Morricone. It's got Chimay, theme from the BBC TV series The Life and Times of David Lloyd George. David Lloyd George, he was a British Prime Minister during the time of the First World War and into the early 1920s. This is on BBC Records. I quite like BBC Records. I have a few. They're quite good quality. There's some. Pick up some pretty. They release some pretty interesting stuff. So Chimay, the main theme. It's pretty familiar. There's some other interesting movie themes here, which are kind of by our Morricone, which probably would be hard enough to find without, buying the actual soundtrack album to the individual movies. And as you know, Morricone soundtracks can be quite expensive. So you have the soundtrack to Sacco and Vanchetti, Once Upon a Time in the West. This came out in 1981, by the way. So, but anyway, nice cheap pickup. You can't go wrong with Morricone, basically. The next items I'm going to show now. Ben Costello, you'll know the place I'm talking about. These are pickups I made in basically it's a kind of a musical instrument shop where they have some second-hand vinyl on the side. I've got a few things there in the past. Very kind of hit and miss in terms of pricing. The guy who runs it, basically if it's something very well known, he tends to slap a big price on it. If it's something that he's not familiar with, which sometimes can mean kind of rare and collectible stuff, he tends to really kind of underprice it, which has been the case with pretty much all of this stuff, which I'm going to show you. Some of this stuff was very, very cheap. There is a big metal haul here now. I don't normally collect metal, but I just had to grab this stuff. But anyway, first off, this was a very cheap pickup. Prince Cream remixes. Prince and a New Power Generation. I'm kind of mixed feelings about Prince. I prefer his earlier stuff. I had listened to this, very kind of R&B-ish. It's okay. I'm not hugely enamoured of it, I have to say. But it was very cheap. It was about the price of a bar of chocolate, basically. So, Ben, I think you have this already, Ben Costello. Another cheap pickup, which is something Now these were a band who I really did quite like back in the day. I don't have anything by them up to this, but that is De La Soul. This is a 12-inch. The Magic Number, Buddy, and Get Old Thing. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I remember them. I remember them from back in the day. This is good conscious rap. As you know, Ben Costello recently put up a video, conscious rap top 10. So this is this pretty much slots into that very neatly. I'm not the biggest hip hop fan, as you'll know, but I do like De La Soul. So so this was a welcome find, and again very, very cheap. Now another 12-inch, and again roughly the price of a bar of chocolate. Talking Heads, Life During Wartime Live. So what Life During Wartime live version, Life During Wartime the album version, and Don't Worry About the Government. This came out in 1982 on the Sire label. Always grab, Talking Heads, always worth grabbing. I didn't have this one, and interesting. I'm sure that artwork there, that kind of diagram of a gun, I'm sure that's on some other album by some other band. I'm pretty sure I've seen it. Next up, yes, it's that man again, Jeff Love and his orchestra. Yes, I showed him in a previous video, Star Wars themes. He covers James Bond in this one. Great artwork again. Couldn't resist this one. Another cheap pickup. This is by a band called the Fountainhead. They were an Irish band who I vaguely remember from the late 80s. This came out in 1988 on China Records. As I said, I kind of vaguely remember them from back in the day, probably from seeing them on the TV, maybe on youth television. It's okay, this album. It's kind of vaguely reminiscent of U2. Not essential, but I mean, again, it was very cheap. So I grabbed it. There were one of these bands that were kind of at the time. I remember them being touted as the next U2, but pretty much every band that came out of Dublin at that time was being touted as the next U2, and they kind of disappeared into obscurity again. So it's okay. I mean, for the price that I got it for, it was worth it. But it's not one that I'd be kind of going out of my way to find. Now, for the metal. Something that a lot of you probably are not aware of is that I was a bit of a teenage metalhead. When I was about 16, 17, I kind of went through a phase when I was into kind of thrash metal, death metal. Some of the things I'm going to show here I actually had on cassette, and I'm pretty sure some of them I still have those cassettes at my parents' house. Now these were slightly more pricey than the stuff I've just shown, but still they were all seriously underpriced, for what they generally go in the wild, and a couple of these items are pretty damn rare. So, first up, Slayer, Hell Awaits. From 1985, original UK pressing on Roadrunner Records, and these are all pretty much all in excellent condition. Yeah, somebody donate. There was actually, yeah, so there was a massive metal donation by somebody. I left behind a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff by Van Halen and bands like that who I have no interest in, but I did grab the stuff which caught my eye, and this was one of them. So and another one by Slayer. Now this is one of the ones which I actually have on cassette. It's still in my parents' house. Rain in Blood from '86. This is this a Dutch pressing? Oh yeah, this is actually a UK pressing. The one I just showed is okay. So this is a Dutch pressing. Hello, waits. This is a UK pressing from '86 on Def Jam recordings. Kind of controversial at the time for some of the songs. Angel of Death, which was about the dealing with the Holocaust, and Necrophiliac, which is kind of self-explanatory, but yeah, so that's two by Slayer. Now the next item I grabbed it pretty much for, I think I'm probably going to end up selling this because Ben Costello, you've shown this recently. This is Easy Meat, Rock Your Brains. This is by an Irish band from 1986, and it's a private pressing. It is extremely rare, and it goes for quite a lot online. It's in perfect condition. I've played it. It's not too bad. You know, it's pretty kind of generic, kind of new wave of NWBM kind of style thing. But yeah, this is one I'll probably end up flipping because I picked it up basically for a fraction of what it goes for, and you know, and just bear with me. The next two items, I'm not 100% sure what. Yeah, possibly might flip them. We'll see. Venom. Venom. Black metal. Pretty rare. Not a first pressing. This is the second UK press from 1982, the year of initial release. Yeah, so Venom, one of the first kind of black metal, satanic metal bands, I suppose you could call them. I haven't actually listened to this one yet, and moving on, Judas Priest, British Steel, 1980. This is a reissue. This is a Dutch press from the mid-80s, I think. So may possibly flip this as well. So or trade or something. Now the next one I am definitely not flipping. This next one is a keeper, and that is Alice Cooper, Killer. Alice Cooper. This is, I think, this is when they were still a band, by the way. When Alice Cooper actually referred to the band rather than Alice Cooper the Individual. So this is from 1971. This is an original French pressing, and it's actually mono. Now this is an excellent album. I'm not particularly so keen on his later stuff, which is kind of more stadium rock. Kind of, they did actually have a lot of his later stuff as well in the shop, but I left that behind. A lot of his 80s stuff. But this is we kind of psychedelic, hard rock, kind of vaguely kind of reminiscent of the Stooges and MC5 in a way. His early albums, quite interesting, quite, and the father of kind of shock rock, but I don't need to. I'm sure you're all aware of that. I don't need to go into that too much. Now I'm gonna try and show the next items kind of quickly because time is running on. I happened yesterday to call into a charity shop, which is a little bit. It's one that I normally would not call into because it's a bit out of town. I just happened to be in the area for a specific appointment, and I just happened to call into a charity shop to kill time. But I found they had a huge stack of classical vinyl, most of it being 20th century and avant-garde classical. The first item is something which has been massively on my want list for a long time, and that is electronic music on Turnabout. This was a series of electronic albums released in the late 60s. This was the first in the series, released in 1966. It includes Walter Carlos, or who is now known as Wendy Carlos. This is compositions by him, stroke her. Well, it was him then, but anyway. But amazing cover art. I've seen this online numerous times. I've never come across it in the wild, so I picked it up for less than €2. I'm really delighted with this because I just love that early electronic, music concrete stuff from that period. There's some other very interesting stuff in here as well. There's Mim Argulu, who was a Turkish composer. Very interesting piece by him as well. I think this possibly might have been, the album that launched, brought, Walter stroke Wendy Carlos to a wider audience. Now, a lot of these items I found are extremely rare and very collectible. This is by Luciano Berio, who, like Walter Carlos, was a seminal kind of avant-garde electronic composer who emerged in the 50s and 60s. This is a piece that was recorded featuring soprano Cathy Barbarian, who was his wife. This came out in 1973, and this is a pretty out there avant-garde vocal performance from Cathy Barbarian. Very kind of cut up technique. There's like spoken words, bits mixed in with sung, vocal samples. Pretty out there, experimental, modern classical, and so this is pretty collectible. and pretty sought after. So very, very nice find indeed. Just bear with me. Now this is pretty rare. This is by a Dutch composer called Tristan and there's 5 compositions by him on this album. Is in a series called Composer's Voice, and this is an album which was available only on mail order from, I think, some Dutch music magazine. Again, kind of avant-garde classical compositions, released in 1977. This is pretty rare, and goes for quite a bit online as well. So again, very interesting find. I had to listen to it. Very interesting stuff. Tristan Kuras, and I think so Composer's Voice is the label. It's a Dutch label. Now, this is a very, very rare find. I wasn't aware of it, but I did find out afterwards that this is an extremely rare pressing of this particular album. It's by Prokofiev, Symphony Number 5 in B flat. It's on Decca, and this particular pressing is extremely rare, and it goes for quite a lot. It's on the Black Decca label. Only found out that afterwards, because I posted it on Facebook on the classical music on vinyl site, and somebody pointed it out to me. And quite a lot by Prokofiev. Romeo and Juliet. This is a beautiful record. This particular album this dates from 1957, and it looks in absolutely fantastic condition. Beautiful artwork. There's this booklet with these illustrations. It is on the RCA label, and it looks barely played. Some more. More by Prokofiev. This is on the Superfon label, Romeo and Juliet yet again. So a lot of these albums, they have fantastic covers, beautiful cover art. As is the case with this one is on CBS Classics. This is Bernstein, Leonard Bernstein, composing works mainly with a Latin American theme, so Chavez, Villa-Lobos, the Brazilian composer, also Aaron Copland, so all with a kind of a Latin American theme. This is Albanese, a Spanish composer, plus Ravel. All these compositions have a kind of an Spanish theme, and have this great art cover photography as well of this señorita. This is a movie soundtrack, The Turning Point. I'm not familiar with this movie, but came out in '77. Shirley MacLaine was in it, but this is the soundtrack. So I don't think this one is particularly rare out of the whole lot. It's probably, it's kind of most common, I think, from what I can find out online. Another very interesting find, Stravinsky. Always grab Stravinsky when I see him. This is the Firebird Suite. This is another 1950s pressing, and it is on, I'll show you the label, it's a very nice label. The Everest label. Lovely label there. Yeah, so some quite rare stuff. Some very rare finds. Okay, so it's gone over half an hour. I better leave it at that. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. Take it easy, and okay, that's it.